Hello and welcome to FlightCall app training. My name is John Park and I'm the Communications Center Manager for Classic Air Medical and Portneuf Air Rescue. And I'm here to show you kind of the more in-depth version of FlightCall and kind of teach you what you need to know so you can get the most out of it. So when you first log in for the first time, this is the screen you're going to be greeted with. This will show you any of your recent calls and kind of the dispositions of them. Over here on the right, we have a menu and then the big orange button to launch. An important thing to note is whether you're on iPhone or Android or the web, all of these are going to look the same. So let's start over here with profile. The only thing you really need to worry about with the profile, and just understand up front that this is a place where you can get your app disabled. So you don't want to play around in here unless you have to, and hopefully you're on the phone with me if you're doing it. So this is going to have your agency's name here. In this case, it's got my personal name. It's going to have your dispatch's callback number. And this is very important. So when you get in, even if you're a police officer or a firefighter, we need to have your dispatch's number in there, because if you're on a scene and you happen to launch this from the phone because it happens to be easier, we're still going to coordinate everything through your dispatch. So this will have the most effective callback number for your dispatch, and then every agency you're tied to. So in this case, we have Bannock 911, Pocatello Police Department, and Bannock County Ambulance. So any one of these can be the agency you're working for, and all of you will see each other's launches. This isn't really protected information, because if a helicopter's been launched, chances are all of you are probably involved anyway, depending on where this is at in your jurisdiction. So you can change these things from the screen, but I highly, highly, highly recommend you don't do it unless you're on the phone with me, because as soon as you click this blue bar to update settings, it will disable the app, your entire account for your entire agency, and nobody will be able to launch any helicopters until we have that updated. So we can, there is times where we need to update the settings, but it's best if I'm on the phone so that you have zero downtime with this when you have to update. So next we have the home screen. This will always bring you back to this home screen here. FlightCall is going to launch calls, and we're going to be using that with in coordination with this bar. Either one works. Active calls, if you click into this, if anybody else in your jurisdiction, like we talked about, has launched a helicopter, this is how you're going to see it. So if you happen to be a neighboring agency and one of your other agencies that you're tied to has launched a helicopter, this is where you're going to click it to get all of the information. So here you can see there's a calls list. There's no active calls right now, but if there were, you could double click on it to get back to that call to see each other's information. Educational calendar currently doesn't work for us. I'll click it just so you can see. This is just a calendar. It would normally have events of PRs or different continuing education things that we haven't quite implemented yet. This will probably be used in the future. There's the hospital directory. This is just a quick lookup for hospitals, but depending on what our CAD thinks is the most appropriate list of hospitals for you, you may or may not have the hospitals you need. So you can type in here, like if I type Utah and start typing, oh boy, it's still loading everything right now. So let's just say for right now, this is probably a work in progress. This is something we'll have updated down the road. But your EMS phones, your officers' phones, and your dispatch will probably have better information than what we have. That was the problem. It was trying to geolocate me to figure out where the best hospitals are. So right now, it's looking for the nearest hospitals to where I live, or even actually it looks like it just pulled the entire list for this one. So, yeah, you can, just to give you an idea what it would look like if I hit Utah and I want to look at Altaview Hospital, has the address, and you can one-touch call the hospital. So there's times where this might be useful to you, but the numbers that we store are the numbers of the people who we have to contact. So if you're looking for a charge nurse or just like the general admin, we might not be getting you to the right place. So know that that's there, and maybe down the road as this gets more implemented and widely spread, we will use this to help you out. But right now it's going to be, these two things are kind of just disabled buttons. The main point of this app is to get you a helicopter, which is the coolest part. Okay, so we have Landing Zone Guide. Landing Zone Guide will open a PDF for people in the field generally. So if you're tasked with having to set up an LZ for a helicopter coming in, this is just a quick reminder of what we need. It kind of sets you up with the wind, lets you know about the power lines, distance from the scene, and how big of a landing area. So this is going to be a useful tool if you're not used to landing helicopters to make sure we get us on the ground safe. Lastly, there's this call to dispatch. that will one-touch call our dispatch line, and that does work. This is 100%. Right there on the lower left, you can see it'll put the number down there, and that is our phone number to our dispatch. So if you ever need to get in touch with us directly, you don't want to use the app and you need to speak, you can hit that button. Please note, it will only do it if the device that this is on is a phone or a tablet. So if you're launching this from the web like I am, this isn't going to do anything. But if I had this on an iPhone, if I had this on an Android phone, a tablet, it will work. Okay, so let's get into launching a call. So clicking flight call, it's going to ask you to enter your PIN. Every jurisdiction will have your own PIN number. So make sure as you roll this out, you get that information to the right people so they understand what they have to type in. It's trying to locate the position, but again, because I'm using my fixed computer, it's kind of struggling with it a little bit. So let's zoom in on Idaho here, and we're going to make a demo call. I like to use Lava Hot Springs because this was a good test point for some other things that we've looked at. So if you're the dispatcher, you can use your mouse to zoom around on the map. You have zoom buttons here. You can click this button if you're a first responder, and this will activate your GPS and it'll put the pin right on you. Again, I don't want to put it back to my house, but that is there. If you click the LZ button, this is just pre-designated LZs that are in our CAD. Right now, we don't have any set up for Idaho, so it's not going to find anything. You can also use the search nearby. So if I just type in Lava Hot, it's going to search the map and try to find any pins. So there it goes. It drops the pin there. If you happen to know that this call is at a Walmart, I believe, we can type in Walmart. Let's see if it'll get it. Yep. All the Walmarts. So this is just kind of a tool you can use if you need to quickly find a location. It's easier for you to type than to find, or at least start with a pin. So maybe if we typed in Lava Hot and we get our first pin here, now we can kind of zoom in and decide specifically where we want to put the helicopter at. Maybe the call's up here on State Road 30, maybe it's over at the KOA, maybe it's back over here. So this is where your individual knowledge is going to come into play to help us put the helicopter in the right spot. Call to dispatch again, just like before, you can call us that way, or you can go back to the home screen with this button over here. So there's two choices when you're going to choose your flight here. First, we have to double click to put in coordinates. So I'm just going to double click right here on the road, and it's already loaded the coordinates for me. So now you can choose to have us on standby, or you can choose to have us launch. So either one of these will work. It just depends on what you need. If you're responding maybe to a rollover and you don't know if you're going to need a helicopter yet, but you want to get us ready, go ahead and hit standby. Just so you know, what happens when you hit standby is we're going to go through and we're going to verify that an asset's available. We're going to make sure that the weather's okay. Everybody's going to get in the helicopter, get the helicopter out onto the pad. Sometimes if the weather's been inclement, they'll be in a hangar. So you're basically cutting down a lot of the response time by giving us that ready time. They'll be sitting inside the helicopter awaiting you to say go. So once you say go and you upgrade the flight, then that will get us on the way. So let's go ahead and launch the flight. You're going to choose which EMS agency you're working for. So if you're the dispatch, you're going to use the 911s, or in this case, the Pocatello Police are the dispatch. Or if you happen to be on the ambulance, you'll use that. So we'll let Bannock County 911 do it. It's going to pre-fill the agency, pre-fill the coordinates, pre-fill the address. You don't have to worry about that. If you have a patient wait, this is something that is really helpful for us for fuel calculations. We understand on 911 calls, you're probably not going to have this. So don't worry about it. If you happen to have it, that's fantastic, but don't worry about it otherwise. The key takeaway here is if the patient's over 350 pounds, it's really not likely that we're going to be able to fly them just for safety concerns and being able to fit them inside the helicopter. So obviously 95% of the population is below that. It's not going to be a normal thing to run into. Additional notes. So best practice here, what we would highly recommend if you are a field unit, if you're an officer, an EMT, or a firefighter that's responding to this call, please just put your call sign in the additional notes before you type whatever details. So if you happen to be Medic 51, just type Medic 51 and then whatever you want to launch. Or if you happen to be Bravo 112, if that's your unit number, just putting that in there will help us, if it's not your dispatch, locate who it was that we needed to talk to when we get on scene. So it gives you some sample of additional notes here. And here the sample says motor vehicle collision with 2 patients, LZ on the road north of the scene, no overhead obstacles, traffic blocked. If you can get that much, that's fantastic. But we understand chances are you won't. I'm just going to put test for this call. But if you say, like, I'm Bravo 112, we have a rollover, 2 patients, unknown condition. That's fantastic. One really, really nice thing that we would love, and this is something that you might get a call from us on if you don't, if you can put the ground contact, which is who we're going to speak to, or who our pilot will speak to when they're coming in to make their final approach, and a frequency that we could reach them on. So maybe the ground contact is a sergeant, so we'll say it's Sierra 110, and that'll be on the frequency, we'll say ground contact Sierra 110, and this will be on channel, I don't know, we'll just say State Fire. And that's how we can reach you. So that's really helpful if you type that in. Again, if you don't, we're still going to launch. Just probably your dispatch will expect a call so that we can get our pilot in touch with the ground crews. The last question here is, has any other aircraft turned down this request? If we happen to be in a jurisdiction, or you're in a jurisdiction where we're not necessarily your first call, or we're not the closest, and this is very helpful for us to know. If somebody else turned this down for weather, the air medical community wants to know so that we're not flying into dangerous situations. So if another pilot saw something that wasn't good, we want to know. That doesn't necessarily mean we can't make it. It just is a helpful tool for our pilots to figure out whether or not they can safely take care of your call. So in this case, we're the first responder, or we're the first call made, so nobody's turned it down. Confirm flight call. Now at this point, it's going off to our dispatch. It's submitted the request. Once this box checked, that means it's made it, or it's gone to our dispatch center. This means our CAD has found it. We're now waiting for the dispatcher to pick which asset's going to go. This is going to be really fast for our demo. Normally, we're going to take just a second to verify a couple things. Once it's located the asset, now we're going to go to this screen. So the only time you're really going to hear from us, other than if you contact us, is if we cannot fly. If you do not hear from us, plan on us showing up. The only time we're going to call you on this is if the weather's too inclement to fly, or if maybe this asset that you see here that's closest to the scene was already on another flight or otherwise unavailable. Then we're going to call you to let you know pretty instantly that we cannot take the flight, so that you can find another service if you need to, or that you can make other arrangements for this patient. So if you don't hear from us, no news is good news. It means we're on the way. Okay, so once we get to this screen here, you're going to see our helicopter, and you're going to see the scene, and as it starts flying, it's going to start flying right along this path here to get down to your scene. Down here you have some information. This is the tail number of our aircraft. This is the time they've been in flight, so once they lift, how many minutes it's been since they've taken off. This is the ETA of what time you could expect them to land at your scene, and the ETE, which is the same thing, just in a countdown of minutes. Also on the screen, you can go back if you want to leave the screen for some reason. You can use this to hone in on your specific GPS position, which we'll talk about in a second. You have your zoom buttons here, and then I'm not quite sure what this button does. It's not doing anything. So, okay, one other thing on the screen. So we have this little paper airplane. This is chat with dispatch. If you go in here, you can type additional messages. So maybe you're the first officer on the scene and you need to let us know that we need to land a little bit to the east of the scene. So just say, please land approximately 1/4 mile east of collision. Oops. Once you send that, our dispatch, this pops up on our CAD, and you're going to get a response back from our dispatcher acknowledging your communication. Please note, we will never contact you directly through this from our end as the first contact. So if you contact us through this, we will continue messaging back and forth through here. However, if we need you, you do not need to watch for text messages coming from us. We will message you, or we'll call your dispatch directly. So here, TM is our dispatcher's initials. That's Tyler. He's copied your traffic. You're good to go. So at this point, once we have established this, we might use this to talk back and forth with you if we have extra information. So here he goes. He followed up again. I will let my crew know. You can see the little 1 on the paper airplane to let you know that there's a new message. So he's taking care of that, and that's fantastic. So now, again, if maybe where we said we're going to land 1/4 mile up the road, let's say that pickup point's going to be right here now. So we've done that. I just clicked this button down here. Before I clicked it, I should have went a little slower. It said change pickup point. Once you do that, you can reset the coordinates and click confirm. and then it will send this back to our CAD system, and now we've been updated. We'll relay that information to our pilot now, and you can get the most accurate. You can imagine, like on a search and rescue scene, this might be really, really valuable if you have several search and rescue people looking for this, and then they finally find it. They can link up and tap that and say, I'm the guy with it, send them to me, and that'll help us locate and get to your patient very quickly. Lastly, on the screen, I think that pretty much covers everything for this screen. You can still, use the map as normal. The last thing to do is just, if you want to cancel this, all you have to do is just hit this button. It's literally tap, confirm, and that call is completed. We are returning to base if that's the case, or we will not launch in the first place if that's how it needed to be. So that's pretty much the whole app in a nutshell. I think we've covered just about everything. On the standby request, if we do that same thing for Lava Hot Springs here, I'll just drop in a pin. The only thing that's going to be different is once you confirm the standby request, there's going to be one additional button that will say upgrade priority of the call, I believe it says. And when you click that, that's the same thing as saying we want you to in the air now. So if you hit standby, again, we're going to take care of all the weather. We're going to get the crew ready. We're going to get the ship out and get everything ready to launch. And then as soon as you say launch, we're going in the air. That process is probably anywhere between 5 and 15 minutes, depending on the time of the year and the base and the time of day. So that's a really helpful heads up if you can get us a standby. If you already know from the details that you want us on the air, just get us launched. It's not a problem at all for us to launch and have to turn around because things turned out okay. We want to make sure we're doing the best we can for your patients. So please don't hesitate to utilize that. It's not a problem for us. So if you have any questions, I'm going to go ahead and just put my information back up on the screen here. I'm going to find there we go. There's a good spot where I can put my information. I'll put it right here in the center of the screen for you. And you can reach out to me at any time. I'm more than happy to give you in-person training or send one of our PR people over that can give you in-person training on this app. And that really should be it. Just so you know, this app is just a web-based thing. It doesn't infiltrate your system whatsoever. All it's doing is just giving a web application for you to launch and utilize our helicopter service. So if there's any questions, like I said, please reach out to me. And thank you so much for being a partner with us on this program. We really hope that this faster technology will save your dispatchers time when they're getting slammed with lots of calls on a busy call. It'll help your first responders get the ETAs they need quickly and more accurately, and just bring us together as an EMS community so we can do right by our patients. Thank you very much and have a good day.